Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. Good morning, and I hope you're dug out to some extent from the snow, although there's still a lot of work to go here. And if anybody lives in an area like I do, you're holding your breath and making sure that no tree branch comes down and knocks out your power for the rest of the week. It's phase 2 that we're all holding our breath for now, but we seem to have made it through the worst of the freezing rain and the snow. And what are we calling it? It's not snow. I still like Snowvid 26 because it harkens back to the last hair on fire disaster, the COVID pandemic. And we'll come up with a name for this storm at some point. It's 6:15. We'll check in with VDOT in Northern Virginia to let you know what your roads are looking like on your way in today or out. 7:05, Joe to Geneva, come rain, snow, sleet, or freezing rain. 7:35, Kevin Roberts from Heritage will join us on what appears to be an orchestrated attack on federal law enforcement and ICE. And then 8:05, Erica Donalds could be the future First Lady of Florida. She's here for School Choice Week, and we've got Cassie Smedile joining us this morning. Cassie, how'd it go? How did the kids love going out in the snow? And was it hard to bring them back? Did you make them bundle up like they couldn't move? What's going on?
Yes. Hey, Larry. Yeah, they were like Oompa Loompas. You know, we did a really good run. It took us about 45 minutes to get everybody ready, and we were outside for 22 minutes. So that's a pretty good ratio for us.
Wait, who was sick of it first, you or the kids? Who was like, I want hot chocolate?
That was exactly what my
you
daughter,
said, what your
she'd
husband
stay out
said.
all day. Yes. No, this is like Dad's time to shine. He's out there pulling the sled. He's shoveling. But my son heard hot chocolate and was like, yeah, I'm good. Let's head back in.
I remember having the very conscious calculation back in the day that it was my role to get out there and put in as much of a showing as possible as like a 6-year-old, trying to help shovel the snow. To just make it long enough to earn the hot chocolate. There's a delta that you have to work out there and figure out. It's like you have to put some time in. You can't just goof around. You have to act like you're moving snow around just so Dad sort of throws you the bone and says, okay, fine, let's go get hot chocolate. And more importantly, the marshmallows in the hot chocolate. Right?
Okay. Yes, the marshmallows are key. I honestly didn't quite know they were key and had to scrape to the back of the cabinet to find the bag of marshmallows. But yes, everybody, we really had fun. But yesterday it was driving, snow, rain, pellets. Yeah. It was not for the faint of heart.
I went out to check out the roads just to be safe. I stayed in a hotel near the radio station. So, because you never know. You never know what the roads were going to be like getting in and whether you were going to lose power, what have you. So yesterday during the day, I want to say around 4 o'clock, I decided to check out how the roads were and how the walk was going to be to get to the studio or whether I could drive to the studio and also, to be honest, to see if any restaurants were open in the area and neighborhood because it was time to eat. And just walking, and that was, we were still getting the freezing rain, which, you can't, when you look out the window, you can't see freezing rain. Right?
No, it's so true.
You don't know that it's happening.
I was teaching the kids how to look up at the street light to see if it was still raining or snowing because they're like, let's go back out. And I'm like, no. Do you see up there?
Yeah. I guess I needed you yesterday. I went out, and the freezing rain on your face is not pleasant.
Oh, no.
Oh, I got back to Meredith, and I said, I think I'm pockmarked and scarred for life. having
That's enough.
Ventured through the frozen tundra of Friendship Heights.
You did it.
DC.
But let's just talk about your commitment to getting in and bringing people the show.
Oh,
you did
it.
for everybody.
This is an FCC obligation. When you swear your oath to be a radio host on a on an FM down station, you got to do that. Well, it was kind of funny actually at the hotel. It was a bunch of WMAL folks who were all sort of camped out, including our own Michael Shelton and Jeff Wolf and all the board operators and all that stuff because they got to keep us on the air. But then there was also a huge contingent from NBC4, the local Washington, like Tony Perkins and all the various local TV people. And it's funny when the people checking in at the hotel were used to local person after local person. So, and they knew they recognized me And I'm like, no, you don't recognize me. And they say, no, I do recognize you. I said, you really don't recognize me. I'm on the radio. And they said, no, I know. And then I remembered like once a week I do a hit on Fox 5.
Oh.
On the local Fox station in the mornings. And I said, well, maybe, do you watch Fox 5 mornings? She goes, yes, that's it. It was very funny. So then I texted Steve Chevney and Tucker Barnes from the local Fox 5 morning show. And I said, hey, guys, NBC4 is here. And I named the hotel. I said, NBC4 is here, and they're all, waiting out the storm here. Bring the Fox 5 crew down here. We can have an Anchorman-style rumble right here in the lobby. Let's go. And Tucker Barnes was ready to roll. He was bringing the chains and the knives, but it wasn't going to happen, sadly. I was looking forward to that. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say they didn't recognize you until you started talking. And then, the voice. Oh, the voice of the DMV.
Yeah, I don't think this was our primary demographic. Mostly because they live in... That's the thing. People who live in D.C. do not recognize me very often because they don't listen. Because this show is meant for people who are driving into Washington. Very few people who live in Washington listen to the local radio in Washington because their commute is, 5.5 minutes usually on the metro, where you're not getting a signal. So mostly it's, if I go 20 minutes outside of D.C., that's when it might happen. But
fair.
Exactly.
Well, catch your podcast, all the different ways to listen. I'm really trying here.
The important thing is I ventured out. The frozen rain was devastating. I hated it. And realized that, it's still pretty dangerous out. And no, none of the restaurants were open. So we waited out for the hotel restaurant to serve. And everybody figured out how to get through it. And we all knew everything was going to be closed today. Schools are closed today. Federal government's closed today, except for the ubiquitous essential workers. And everyone's just going to have a nice little white snowy day and hopefully get their own homes in order and get the walks shoveled and all that jazz. And we'll see. I don't know. It's going to be very cold all week long, which means the snow is not going anywhere, which means I don't know. We're probably going to have several days without school, right?
Yeah, I do think it's funny. The people who are and love nothing more than being a mom. So grateful for the stage in life. Let me just caveat. But everybody's saying, oh, share your Netflix recommendations. How are we riding out the storm? Yeah. And I'm over here like on my 10th cup of cocoa, trying to figure out new games to play and, turning our house into a fort.
Yes.
It's like, oh, no, I can't do this for 5 days.
Yeah.
And work. So hats off to everyone who's doing that juggle.
You're talking about Bethany Mandel, obviously.
Yeah. Yes, but she's like an unfair standard. I feel like she is particularly good at this juggle.
I suppose that's true with six. Well, the good thing about six, and this is what you have to learn because you only have two so far, Cassie. But once you get to the third one, the older ones end up being sort of like they enjoy playing mommy and daddy to the little ones, and they take a lot of the burden off. You can sort of like you can outsource a lot of the duties to the older siblings, and they like being bossy, which is always nice as well. So you got to take advantage of that.
That's such a good point. Another big family conservative friend, Rachel Duffy, would always say that. Yeah. They just start taking care of each other. You hardly notice. You just add another one into the mix, and a kid takes them and takes care of them. The
Duffys are the Catholic versions of the Mandels.
It's so true.
I remember as soon as I had 4 kids, we would be at a restaurant. You get all this side eyes from people, but then you also get people who came up and they start playing the guessing game. It's like Mormon, Orthodox Jew, Catholic. What's the story here? It's got to be one. A, B, or C, and then usually they're right about that by the time they get to Catholic. All right, well, a little bit more on how we coped with the storm and what it's looking like for the next several days as the temperatures are not getting any warmer, which means the snow will be around for a bit. And we're even looking at a little bit more snow in the forecast coming up this next weekend because why not? And we'll remind you of a global warming video from John Kerry that was making the rounds over the weekend, considering everything we're dealing with. All that and a little bit more. Yes, there's a lot in the news. Yes, there was another shooting in Minneapolis. Yes, ultimately, it's the fault of people who are getting in the face of law enforcement while they're trying to do their job because that's very dangerous. And at the same time, yes, we had some very real messaging problems and some crossed signals coming out of the administration at a time where we can't afford that. All that coming up this morning. Keep it here. First, though, the roads are going to be an important topic of discussion.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Brought to you by One Day Doors and Closets. Visit onedaydmv.com/WMAL.
Yeah, we've got juggling weather forecasts here from over the weekend because it was such a major topic. And we've got, yes, it's going to be cold. I'm looking at the temperatures here. The high today is 25. High tomorrow will be 27. Highest it's going to get all week is tomorrow. Sunny skies, 27 degrees. Otherwise, we're hovering around 23, 24. And then Friday night through Sunday, we're looking at more snow potentially. So, I mean, we're going to have to live with this. We're going to live with this through mid-February. Now, this is what happens. So even when temperatures get back up into the 40s, you've got this, like, snowpack, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just going to stay. You're going to have those giant, the big berms, little mini Mount Everests on the corners of streets where everything's been plowed into, like, a big giant mound. Yeah, it'll be black by, February 10th, and it'll be sooty and gross, and it's going to stay there until St. Patrick's Day. It's winter, man. And once every, we were trying to remember. We had big snow last year, but it was sort of gone within 10 days. The last big, lingering, giant snow, I think it was the one we called Snowzilla. And it was, I want to say it was 2018 Snowzilla. But that's my memory is that one. Because I had a video that I was showing at dinner last night to the guys. Now this is saying Snowzilla was 2016.
16, that's what I was thinking.
So this is what was weird, because I have a video of me and Meredith. We had just been married for a year, and we used to live in the neighborhood right here by the radio station. So we were walking home with the snow, and I had live streamed it on Facebook. I don't know why, because I was a young newlywed, and it was fun to slip around in the snow. And it was in the evening, so I assumed that I was doing the afternoon shift at WMAL, which is what you know what? Oh, it does make sense, because I forgot that I would do 1 hour in the afternoon from 5 to 6, even when I was still doing mornings. That's what it was. Oh. We had the drive at 5. That's what it was. Okay. So anyway, after work at the radio station, I'm sure we went to a restaurant and drank a lot of wine, and then we were drunk walking home in the snow. It was a great video. But that was the last one. The Snowzilla 2016 was the last major snow in January. It was giant.
Oh, memories.
But we really haven't. So it's been 10 years since we've had this kind of snow.
Right. Or at least this hyped up kind of snow. Because that one, that was no joke. I remember we came in from Dulles. I actually was coming back from an international trip, speaking of, young life and the things you get to do. Mm-hmm. And we were the last flight to make it in for several days. We waited 3 hours for our bags, but we were like, if we don't get it today, we're not going to get it for a week. But
yes.
It was
a fun time.
That
was like 2 to 3 feet, if I remember right, across the area.
That was insane. This is nothing compared to
This was more than a foot, though, for sure. I mean, just walking through it this morning, it felt like it was about 15 inches in D.C. proper. Yes,
I agree. My husband would agree with you otherwise, because I'm looking at these official snowfall reports from the, quote, official measurers. Mm-hmm. I'm a little dubious because these are saying, like in my area, closer to 8 or 9 inches. But that was like after the first shovel. It was over a foot in my neighborhood.
Yeah, they're saying Reagan National had 7 inches. But I had a friend who put out a video who lives like, a mile from Reagan Airport, and they took the tape measure in the front yard and they pushed it down, and it was already about a foot. So, you just can't trust the news. You can't trust the weathermen. You can't trust any of that. That's not true.
No one knows what to believe anymore.
You can't. Well, and you know why? Because John Kerry has been warning us about the freezing Arctic for how long. I love that John Kerry, his public profile reached the point where he had to out Al Gore. It's like you have a bad political outlook when it's like, damn it, I lost that presidential election. Now what? I guess I'll do what Al Gore did. That was the only difference is he actually got a job, John Kerry. He was Secretary of State. But here he was as a senator. This was in 2009.
In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic summer. That exposes more ocean to sunlight. Ocean is dark. It consumes more of the heat from the sunlight, which then accelerates the rate of the melting.
He's very smart. So that was in 2009. He said in 5 years. So that would have been 2014, of course, which is, literally a dozen years ago, when we would have a ice-free Arctic for the first time. And meanwhile, we just had the Arctic, dump on our heads for the last 48 hours. So this is why we don't believe people when they tell us that it was only, 5 inches or what have you.
Yeah, these climate change opportunists crack me up because they keep putting these markers on it that are easily defiable. It's like, oh, that didn't happen, but we still take you seriously. They all say it. They all do it. Oh, by 2020, by 2025. And everybody has that moment, just like you did, Larry, to be like, well, we're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. But that said, I mean, they said this one was going to be a major snowstorm. It was going to be freezing rain. It was going to be sleet. The only thing they got wrong on this one, I think, was when it started, because it was supposed to start Friday at sundown, and it didn't really start until like midnight, 1, 2 in the morning, Friday night going into Saturday. It was slowed down. But yeah, if you woke up Saturday morning, you definitely saw, oh, man, I guess it did snow. And there it is. It snowed. And a whole lot else went on this weekend. We'll catch you up to speed in a moment. First, though, it's 5:24. Storms like this always are a test of a leader's qualities and decision-making power. The governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, she made a decision, and it turns out it was a deadly one. We'll give you the details next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:37. Good morning. It's going to be a rough morning if you have to get out and get somewhere or anywhere, so please be careful. And keep it here as we'll have constant updates from Jamie Whitten every 10 minutes, as well as whatever the weather updates are. But they're pretty much all copacetic now, sunny and cold until Friday when we get more snow. How about that? If you're taking a sleigh to where you need to go, you're going to be fine, except, horses poo everywhere, so that's a problem. And then it freezes, it becomes rock-like. No one wants that in their life. Just stay home. That said, if you are getting out there at 6:15, we'll hear from VDOT, Ellen Kamalakis. I love her. She's very funny. Works the VDOT social media channels. Channels? Let's call them channels. It's 7:05. Joe DeGenevieve will be here. 7:15. We're going to hear from the Maryland Roads, Charlie Gischler. And then at 7:35, Kevin Roberts Heritage, and 8:05, Erica Donalds for School Choice Week. It's Larry O'Connor with Cassie Smedile, or Medley, since we're going to be doing a whole Christmas music thing. Right?
A medley of Christmas, yes.
That's
Good
right.
morning, Larry.
Morning.
Well, I guess I'll put my horse back in the stable.
Yeah, you don't want that. There's a metaphor there somewhere, but I'm not going to. We had another shooting over the weekend. Again, agitators, resistors, people obstructing justice, getting in the way of law enforcement. Egged on, motivated, inspired, I think funded by Democrats on the left, like Tim Walz, who was, on a megaphone last week, literally telling these people to get in law enforcement's face. The shooting involved a Border Patrol agent and a resistor who was part of this very organized network of people that get in the way and obstruct justice. And, of course, it was a Border Patrol agent, so, of course, naturally everybody was screaming that ICE needs to get out, which, again, it's like you can be wrong on the issues, but just don't sound stupid. It's like, well, there you go. There's another reason why ICE needs to leave. Sorry, it wasn't ICE. It was Border Patrol. But, okay,
right.
What you mean is you don't want any immigration laws enforced, and you don't want anybody in the country illegally who has broken the law to get out of here. Governor Kathy Hochul is one of those people. She led the charge. Her main priority over the weekend, as a giant snowstorm was bearing down on her state, was to publicly call for Kristi Noem's resignation or firing, to scream that, she didn't go right up to the point where she said this was a murder or an assassination like other Democrats did, but just said that, this was her priority. And then when Kristi Noem, head of Department of Homeland Security, reached out to the governor appropriately at the federal level and said, hey, you got a snowstorm coming in. If you need any help, assistance, the feds are here. We're going to help you. She rebuffed her. She rebuffed her and said, no, you focus on, resigning and getting out of office and cleaning up your problems. We're fine here in New York. And then we were greeted yesterday afternoon with a headline from the New York Post that 3 people in New York City froze to death under Governor Hochul's watch because it was more important for her to grandstand politically during a storm instead about ICE and about a shooting in Minneapolis than actually do her job and make sure that her citizens are safe and taken care of.
I mean, TDS is such the disease is strong with these. And that whether it's in Minneapolis or Kathy Hochul, that they just rush to say, what is the thing that I'm supposed to be saying right now to appease my base? What's the thing I'm supposed to be talking about? Never mind my constituents, the wellness, safety of my constituents as a storm is barreling down. And, New York, it's always rich when you hear things coming out of politicians in New York because that state is running so well.
Exactly. Everything's going great there, and there's no corruption. Never has been in the state of New York. Absolutely.
Right.
Hochul even put together a very smartly edited and produced with visual effects video on her social media account yesterday. Again, as 3 New Yorkers were dying under her watch because they weren't getting assistance during the freezing temperatures.
Yesterday in Minneapolis, federal immigration agents killed another American citizen in broad daylight. His name was Alex Preddy. He was 37 years old. He was an ICU nurse, someone whose job was saving lives.
You know who else was an ICU nurse and whose job was saving lives? Laken Riley. Laken Riley, who was murdered by an illegal immigrant. I don't remember Kathy Hochul stopping everything and giving a press conference about her.
No, I don't recall that.
No.
I don't recall so many people who've been talking about Minneapolis. And it's just amazing to me that the governor of New York is holding a press conference on something that happened in Minnesota.
Well, she does want to be on a national ticket at some point. She's on everybody's short list as a running mate, so she's got to do this. That said, take a listen.
Donald Trump's leader of the Department of Homeland Security has proven to be unable and unwilling to follow the law to stop these killings.
That's not true.
Kristi Noem has referred to these peaceful protesters as domestic terrorists and lied about the shooting victims being the aggressors. She has shown a profound disregard for human life.
Well, actually, I mean, listen, there's going to be a lot to unpack about this latest shooting, and people are still sort of looking at the Renee Good shooting through their own Rorschach test. But to deny that in certain respects, the people who ended up sadly being the victims of a shooting at the hands of law enforcement were in any way not aggressors is just not looking at the facts. Renee Good was an aggressor. She used her vehicle aggressively. This man who was just shot on Saturday, again, not saying that it was justified, that everything went by the book, that there wasn't a problem, but to say that he wasn't an aggressor is just to deny the facts. He was acting aggressively. He was physically involved with the law enforcement. You may say it was righteous, but to say he wasn't an aggressor is just incorrect. I'm sorry. And when you're acting aggressively with law enforcement and obstructing them from doing their duty, things are going to, escalate. That's what happens.
And you're getting in the middle of them doing their job.
Yeah.
That's, I mean,
add to the fact that you were, lawfully or not, you were carrying a weapon at the time, and law enforcement in the heat of the situation seized the weapon and, identifies the fact we've got a gun here, and then a shot rings out. And this is why you don't aggressively get in the face of law enforcement. Ironically, here with Kathy Hochul, I think that there is some justifiable criticism of how Kristi Noem handled this over the weekend. But Kathy Hochul, zeroes in on everything that's not objectionable in all of this,
right?
And demands her resignation. A little bit more of this. There's an ironic statement that she makes here in this video that really does sort of, again, reset this entire topic and brings it back to, sort of the basis of why all of this is happening. We'll share that in a moment. Kathy Hochul has no sense of irony or no understanding of the facts here. She just wanted to grandstand. Again, did I mention that 3 New Yorkers died in sub-freezing temperatures? because they didn't get any assistance while Kathy Hochul was giving this press conference and refusing help from the Department of Homeland Security? Yes, I think I did mention that. It's 5:44.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Governor Kathy Hochul of New York yesterday, while neglecting her own duties and refusing help from Kristi Noem of the Department of Homeland Security, did put together a press conference about a shooting in another state.
Kristi Noem has forfeited her right to lead, and I'm calling on her to resign as Secretary of Homeland Security, or Donald Trump to do the right thing and just fire her. And if not, she must be removed or impeached. And Gregory Bovino, who has helped lead and defend and escalate these operations, should also be fired. But no one is above the law. No one.
That's the ironic thing she said there, that whole no one is above the law thing. No one is above the law, Cassie Smedile, which is true. No one is above the law. But literally what Kristi Noem and the Department of Homeland Security and the Trump administration are doing in Minneapolis is to ensure that no one is above the law. And I'm talking about the illegal immigrants who were all let in for 4 years by the tens of millions under the previous administration that Kathy Hochul supported. Their Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, no call for him to step down or resign or be impeached by Congress when they literally allowed this lawless invasion to occur. That's why we're here. And now she's saying no one is above the law. I mean, if it's a Republican working in the Trump administration, that's what that phrase means, apparently. But not all of the people who have broken our laws and continue to break our laws by being in the country illegally.
Right. Well, I had that thought. I thought, great point. You tweeted this last night. No one's above the law unless you're an illegal immigrant. And it seems like that's the asterisk for almost every national Democrat right now. I mean, Abigail Spanberger just last week, hours of being in office, and all of a sudden we're hearing about these loopholes she's creating for illegal immigrants with free immigration and all that. And then I also thought, no one is above the law unless you've broken the law, because, of course, cashless bail and all these people are being let out. Make it make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. Tim Walz, by the way, as this chaos continues under his watch, do you notice how no one's talking about the fraud in the Somali community in Minnesota that, I believe Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, and Tim Walz, the governor, either absolutely knew about, undermined the investigations of, and I think that there's plenty of evidence to suggest that they probably got paid campaign contributions by those very fraudsters to basically look the other way and not bring them to justice. Yeah, no one's talking about that, but Tim Walz is overseeing all of the chaos that's going on. And just 5 days ago, he addressed all the protesters in his front yard with a megaphone. He first compared the Trump administration to the murderous communist regime in Beijing, China, and then went on to say,
"You are doing everything, and our neighbors are doing everything. And I can't stress enough on this. We're winning it because we're doing it with Minnesota grit, Minnesota humor, Minnesota decency." Oftentimes talk about this, and I know people are discussing this a lot. I spent a lot of time with John Lewis on nonviolent resistance. The resistance matters. We're not telling people to be silent, but we're not telling people to go out and cause problems. We're going to cause good trouble.
We're going to cause good trouble, he says. Nonviolent resistance. And, of course, nonviolent resistance is like parking your car in the middle of the street while DHS is going through, or standing in front of and getting, this nurse who was tragically shot and killed over the circumstances that are still being unpacked by everybody who seems to know that they see exactly what they think they say on videos on the internet. But they say, listen, he was just calmly and peacefully directing traffic. Wait a second. What was he doing out in the middle of the street directing traffic while ICE was there? And by the way, while he was directing traffic, he was also then going to lend physical assistance to someone that ICE was trying to get out of the way, who was in the street, in the way of them conducting their lawful duties. It's, again, not saying that the shooting was good. I think the evidence still needs to be examined and all that stuff. But don't tell me that they're just out there, peacefully resisting and just protesting and not doing anything, because they are mucking up all of the works for ICE and getting in their way, and that's when things start to escalate.
And that is their intent.
Yes.
That this wasn't at some organized protest. This was part of their network of, where they text each other when they see ICE, and they all descend to be disruptors.
Right. And they brag about it.
Completely. And I was thinking about this too. Memphis, Tennessee was one of the towns that has a Democrat mayor who said, I'm going to cooperate with ICE and federal law enforcement. And we don't hear about Memphis, the Memphis operation, because there's a coordination amongst local and national and federal officials. And yes, the Somali fraud, we need to be talking about that. But two, why is Minnesota this hotbed right now? Because there's no coordination or even just working with, respect for, from the elected officials, from the mayor and from the governor. They themselves are ginning up everybody. They are doing nothing to say, let's calmly go about this and figure this out. Yep. And so that's why Minnesota is different than so many of these other cities.
Oh, 100%. In fact, coming up in the next hour, we'll get into that, the details, the stats, the realistic. Why isn't this happening in other cities? Why are they targeting? Well, actually, the number of arrests at the hands of ICE and local law enforcement is astoundingly significant in red states and in red cities. You don't hear about it because there's cooperation going on, and we'll give you those details coming up as the morning unfolds.